we're all happy and bubbly and clean. That's unrealistic, and I don't agree with that.
In my head.
Hello everybody. Tonight I should say, we're gonna talk about mental health and YouTube, basically because I didn't really have a topic for tonight. I kind of came up with it. Well, we're gonna talk about my mental health in a minute because I am a YouTuber and I want to talk about why that affects my mental health and what that looks like. But this is not my 200th video. The 200th video I already released. Hopefully you saw it already. Here comes a slow car. Story of my life. And another car. So just in case you're a regular subscriber who missed it, I did my 200th video. It is a video I worked very long and hard on. I'm proud of it. It is called I Am Not a Mental Illness. So check that out if you haven't already. If you're seeing this years later, hopefully it's still called that. Yeah, but it's cool. It was worth it, and I hope you enjoyed it. And let me keep walking because it's too noisy here. Okay, so there wasn't a video yesterday because it was raining, and I've still been having like some issues health-wise. Totally fine, something that's gonna pass, but so that's that. We're here tonight to talk about YouTube and mental health, and I do not have this planned out, which is like so bad best practices for YouTube, and this is kind of what I want to talk about. When you're doing YouTube and you're doing it seriously, now everybody's going to have different reasons why they're doing it, but when you're doing it seriously, there is a ton of work that goes into it that is not so obvious to the people on the other side of the camera, to you guys, unless you do YouTube yourself. And so I'd like to discuss like what some of that work is, and how that affects our mental health. Part of me would love to just sit here and complain, and there will be complaining here, of course. And that's something else I would like to get to, like a mental note for myself there, because I sometimes forget when I'm walking from one place to another. But there are interesting scenarios that we go through as people who do YouTube videos that other people don't face. And so I don't even know who I'm talking to right now. I don't know if you are a YouTuber or you're just a person who'd like to know, but I'm trying to capture everybody here when I talk about this. So I'm going to go to my next place where I can hopefully speak a little bit longer and think about this. I do have some ideas in mind, and we'll see what comes out. Alright, so I'm just going to jump around topic to topic, because again, I don't really have an organized way of saying any of this. I just want to give my experience. So I just did my 200th video here on YouTube, and it was a big deal for me, so I wanted to do something special. Other than what I normally do, which is 5 days a week, I'm out here, usually 5 days a week. I know sometimes I skip, but 5 days a week. Out here, I spend like an hour or so walking, then I get home, and depending on the day, it can take anywhere from 5, 6, 7-ish hours to process everything. So I've already spent an hour here, and then I'm spending the majority of the rest of my time doing the YouTube thing. So that entails transferring files, editing files, sorry, I'm just aware of my surroundings. So transferring the files, converting the files for me, putting all the clips together, cutting and editing them, which takes a long time. I have to find, personally, I look to find music that I can use that's public domain, which actually takes some time to find the music that I want to use. Rendering, which a lot of people think rendering's not a big deal, and it really depends on the system that you have. Like, I had to upgrade my computer a couple of years ago to be able to even think about doing something like this, because the rendering time just took forever. And I know you think you can just kind of like render in the background, and sometimes you sort of can, but sometimes you sort of can't because it slows down your computer. Then there's uploading to YouTube, which can take a long time. It can take like 20 minutes to upload a 5-minute video sometimes, just for people who are not like used to doing this. Then you have to edit the description, the title, the tags. You have to create a thumbnail, and creating a thumbnail can be a pain in the butt. For those that don't know, your thumbnail is incredibly important because you have to entice people to click on your video, because people have to discover you, right? So some of you maybe just knew me from social media already, you knew me from other places, but if you want to grow on YouTube, you have to get discovered, and so you show up in the search results, or if you're lucky now, you show up on the sidebar. And YouTube is changing things around all the time, and it makes it very complicated for us who are trying to grow and who are trying to get ahead, because they keep changing things and pulling the carpet out from under us, because they're a corporation and they have to do some of these things to stay in business and to stay at the level that they're operating at. So the thumbnail is important to get discovered. The title is equally as important. Usually people do like clickbaity type of titles, like "you'll never guess what happened to me," because it works, because then people will click. For some of us, like myself, we don't want to normally do those kinds of things because it feels a little deceptive. There's no right or wrong here for that kind of stuff. Then the tags tell YouTube what your video is about, but YouTube has a lot of different factors for deciding where your video should go and what ranking position it should be in and where it should show up. And again, it's really complicated and it's really frustrating as a creator, because you can put your heart and soul into a video, like this 200th video that I just did, where I spent 2 months between conceptualizing it, writing it, actually going out and filming it, editing it, putting together the title, description, tags, and then something else that I've left out is spreading awareness of it. So going on social media, posting in the different areas in social media and getting the word out, which is hard in itself because a lot of platforms have limited your reach to people on purpose because they want you to pay for advertising. Now, somebody like myself, I don't have a source of income to cover what's going on right now, and I actually paid $19 for the music that I used in the last video because I wanted it to have impact, and I knew I needed something that was more, I knew I was going to have to pay. I knew I was going to have to pay if I wanted it to sound at the quality and the level that I wanted it to. And I also am currently advertising a little bit on Facebook, because since I put so much effort into this, it would be kind of silly of me to not try to promote it. And this is not, like, again, it's not always to complain, but we will talk about complaining, because I think that's an issue where people don't want you to complain, and I don't like that. But this is not just me complaining, it's just kind of explaining, like, all of these factors are very stressful, just like any other job, except for this is not considered a job, and we don't get paid for it, and we don't, so it's more like volunteer work in a way. We do get benefit from it in that we do get our name out there, and we do hopefully connect with people, and there's that, you know, that's a great thing, but it's much more like volunteer work than it is getting paid. You know, there is advertising money. Advertising money is very, very low, especially for people who are just starting out like myself. Even though I have over 400 subscribers now, advertising's not really doing it. Trust me. I don't believe I'm supposed to give any numbers out here, but it's nothing. It might as well not be there. So it's frustrating for a YouTuber if you go into this thinking that you're going to make it big and it's going to happen right away and people are going to love your stuff, because it is a lot of hard work. And if you go in with that kind of an attitude, you're going to be disappointed constantly. And I am disappointed continuously. All the time I am disappointed because I put in effort. You know, I stopped doing the earlier videos that I was doing where I would carefully like research and put together and try to be a little bit more careful about my messaging because I wanted to be more educational, and I stopped doing it because it was just too stressful to put all of that effort in and not see a return for it. Like sometimes I would only get 10 views on those videos. This video that I just put out, my 200th video, even with all the advertising and the pushing and everything, I think I'm probably at maybe 60 views right now, which is actually pretty good for an average video for somebody of my size. But I know that of those 60 views, not everybody watched the whole thing and not everybody cares. So mentally, that's frustrating. It's frustrating to put so much effort and feel like you're not getting somewhere. And that is the kind of thing that will lead towards depression, as I've talked about before on this channel. And there are days when I get, I wouldn't say depressed, but my mood will go down and I will feel discouraged and I will feel like very, very light depression symptoms over it. So that is one way that it affects your mental health. I'm going to keep walking because I know this has been a long stretch of time that I'm talking, and I'm going to continue. I think we're going to talk about complaining. Okay, so complaining. People don't want to hear complaining. I think it's because people have difficulty with hearing negative stuff, maybe because there's enough negative stuff already going on in their own head, and when they hear other people complaining, they internalize it, or they take it personally. I don't know. There's a lot of psychological processes that could be responsible for complaining, but there is this pressure if you are on YouTube or if you're in the media in general to not be complaining and to keep quiet your concerns. And I see it all the time online, and I even do it myself sometimes, although I try really hard not to, and I think it's pretty obvious on this channel by now that if I feel like shit, you're gonna hear about it. So that's something to be aware of. That's not too high of a standard to put anybody to never be complaining, because that's not real. That's not human. My channel is about humanizing mental health and cars going by. So part of humanizing mental health is accepting these negative parts of ourselves, accepting that sometimes life is hard and sometimes we want to complain, sometimes we don't feel like we're getting anywhere, sometimes whatever, like sometimes people get angry, sometimes we say things we don't mean, like it's just normal. It's part of being a human, it's part of life. And so there is this weird pressure on YouTube for a lot of different reasons to try to like wash that over and act like we're all happy and bubbly and clean and wonderful, but that's unrealistic, and I don't agree with that pressure. I've mentioned it before here. YouTube PewDiePie did a video about this called forced positivity, and you may not be a PewDiePie fan, that's fine, but this was an interesting video because he was a little bit more serious in it, and he was talking about how people force positivity, and it doesn't show the real side of things. And it not only is it an impossible standard for us to hold up, but it also reflects back to the viewers an impossible standard for them in their own lives. So that's what I think about complaining. Another issue with mental health in YouTube can just be people who have anxiety in general, or social anxiety, like performance anxiety. It can be really hard to get up on YouTube, even if it's something that you really desire to do. Here comes another car. Even if it's something that you really want to do, if you have social anxiety, it is hard. It is hard to get in front of a camera and say, like, this is who I am, because you're opening yourself up to judgment. And personally, on my channel, I don't really get a lot of the negative comments. I filter them out, I put on moderation, which is something that you can do if that's a concern for you. But you still see the comments, even if, you have to approve whether they come out or not, but you'll see what people say. And I really haven't gotten a lot. Maybe it's because I'm small. Once I get bigger, I'll probably get nastier things. But if you're somebody with social anxiety, that can be too much to take. That could be a battle that you're constantly fighting when you get up on YouTube, and you may even see it sometimes in people when they're recording. You may even see it in me sometimes. When there's days when I'm just like, I don't really want to be saying this. I get social anxiety sometimes just being out here and like not knowing who's around, and we've seen already that I get into weird situations where people follow me or whatever. So I have justified reasons sometimes to have that paranoia and that social anxiety come out, but it's real, it's real. It's not like we're just walking up to people that we already know, or we're in an environment with people that there's like less of a human thing to it, so people are more able to be nasty, more able to say mean things, threatening things sometimes, and so that's something else that people who do YouTube have to deal with. As far as their mental health, I know I had more. I need to keep walking because it's getting a little late, but I'll think about it. Okay, I'm in one of the places where I always get interrupted, so be aware that that may happen. I'm also in a place where the light goes on and off. The joys of being a YouTuber who doesn't have access to the resources that they need. So that is one thing I wanted to talk about, and I don't know why it skipped my head, but like money is always an issue because for myself anyway, I always have big dreams about the things that I would like to do, and I know that if I had more resources I could do a lot more, but I don't have those resources, which in a way can be good because it forces me to be creative with what I have. So that's a good thing, and I don't want this to all to be about negative mental health, but it's hard sometimes when you feel so limited in what you can do. As I mentioned, that can kind of lead towards a depression. What else did I want to talk about? Comparison. It's so easy to compare yourself to other channels, especially if you know other people who are starting around the same time as you and are in this similar topic as you. That can be really frustrating because you may see other people getting ahead faster than you are. Or maybe you're not so aware. There are different topics that do better than others. There's just different, there's that like, there are, each topic has its own amount of popularity. Each topic has its own amount of people talking on it. Like I do mental health, and there are a lot of people talking about mental health. Not everybody's like a standout, and that's why I'm finding it very hard to break through and stand out a little bit more. So other topic, well, gaming, let's just talk about gaming is hard to break into in general unless you niche down. So there's a lot of pressure on YouTube to get very specific about a topic. So like for instance, my topic is broad, it's mental health. That's a lot of different things when it comes to mental health. But if I were to take the advice of the people who give advice on how to make it on YouTube, they would say, focus in narrowly, even maybe just for the start. So I did take some of that advice, and I tried to do a lot of topics on trauma and PTSD and abuse and all that kind of stuff, and I still talk about that quite a lot here because I'm passionate about that. But it really didn't get me very far. But again, it's going to depend on what your topic is, and maybe I could niche down. I don't know how people pronounce it differently, but niche. But then what happens when I want to do something bigger? Because if you get known for doing one thing and then you start to move into doing other things, then you lose subscribers, you lose your audience. It's frustrating because YouTube is slow. YouTube doesn't... You can chase trends on YouTube and you can have the channel that chases trends, but in general, when you're building a following, it takes a long time. Just like building a business, just like getting an education, you know, these things take a lot of time. That in itself is very frustrating. So comparing yourself to others can be really frustrating when you see other people doing well. Even comparing yourself to yourself can be frustrating because I find myself half the time, like I spend a lot of time thinking about this, way too much time thinking about this, and it sucks that I do. But I'm constantly trying to figure out, like, why is this video doing better than this one? And why can I get this tag? Why can I get my video to rank in the search engine for this tag, but I can't get it to work for this tag? And why do people keep saying to do playlists? And when I do a playlist, nothing's happening. Like, there's so many questions that can come up, and that in itself becomes very frustrating. Then there is, you know, I'm talking very much from the perspective of a small YouTuber. Once you get larger, there are so many other factors that can come into play, from fear about lawsuits, fear about stalkers, disclosing personal things about yourself, your personal life can get scary. There are things that I purposely try to like block from revealing on here, not really too much, but like when I shoot my videos, I don't necessarily want you to be able to recognize where I am, because I don't want to open myself up to vulnerability. And I do have a disclaimer at the bottom of all my descriptions that I'm not a therapist, I'm not trained in any way to talk about these things. There was a big fear about even me going into this topic for a long time because I was afraid that I would be representing myself as a psychotherapist, which I am not. And I was afraid that somebody could sue me for that, because why wouldn't they be able to sue me for that? There's the car coming. Okay, so, yeah, you know, where I live, New York State, the laws are very strict on representing yourself and who can practice psychotherapy and whatnot. I didn't want it to ever look like I'm practicing psychotherapy just in what I say here. Car. And quite frankly, I don't want to be sued. I don't even have money if somebody wanted to sue me, but like, that's, yeah, let's not even go there, because that would just destroy my life personally. And then if you look at somebody like, and I'm just using this because this is a high profile one that I'm aware of, you have PewDiePie, who does this comedy, and some people found the jokes were a little too off color, and so Disney pulled the contract, and then he got screwed. So, okay, so somebody was walking by. So people thought his jokes were off color, and so he a lot of advertisers pulled away from him. He lost his contract with Maker Studios, I believe, Disney. Like, it was a shitstorm for him, and he wound up losing the apartment that he was being given as a creator for that studio. He had to move. Like, it really, not only did it affect his personal life, but it affected all the people that work with him and for him, and it also affects the rest of YouTube, because that means that this can happen to anybody who's doing comedy topics. So it's a big deal once you get larger, and there's a lot more pressure to be careful about what you say and how you say it, and you know, that comes with any profession, but it's something else that could affect your mental health, feeling like you represent so many people. And that's something I'm striving to do here, to represent all of you as best I can in talking about mental health topics. And that's difficult because everybody has a different form of mental health issues, and it's a lot of pressure to put on myself. I'm gonna move because I'm just getting uncomfortable, and we'll wrap this up. Okay, well, to wrap it up, the stresses of YouTube are things like money is a clear one, especially because it's much more like volunteer work than actual paid work. You may have noticed that a lot of creators are joining Patreon. I have a Patreon account myself, and this is because we need ways to monetize, because we can't just give all of our time in life up to this, most of us. Some of us may have a well enough paying job that we're able to kind of do this on the side or whatever. But as I mentioned, YouTube switches things around a lot, and right now YouTube wants longer content. They want people to stay engaged in watching the entire video all the way through, and they want to see you uploading frequently. A lot of the people who teach on how to make it on YouTube right now are talking about how, like, it's not enough to just do 1 or 2 videos a week anymore. And that's really hard, because how do you keep a high quality doing it like I'm doing 5 days a week? Like, I don't think the quality of my videos is really that great. I'm glad for the people that tune in, and I'm happy that you show up. But even if you miss a day, for example, the YouTube algorithm could really penalize me and take me out of your homepage and make it harder for you to see me, which is, you know, we're used to this by now on social networks. This is what they do. Oh, there's a cat. Hold on. So by now we should be used to being penalized on social networks, but it's hard with YouTube, especially if you're somebody like myself. Like, you'd like to make this your life passion, you'd like to earn money off of it somehow. Some topics, this may be easier to earn a living off of, like how to make money or doing reviews of things, because you can send people to an Amazon affiliate link, because people are already in the mindset of buying something. They come to see your review, they're convinced by your review, and then they go buy it. But when it comes to something like mental health, like, what am I going to sell you? And I don't know. It's just difficult. So it depends on the topic that you're doing, and so money's an issue. Money's an issue. Money and time, really, because this takes a lot of time. What else? Something I forgot to mention before that came to my mind is, some people may hear me talking about all this, about complaining about, like, not growing and having a hard time getting people to notice you, because that's like most of the game here on YouTube, as far as I can tell. It's the thing that I have the most difficulty with. And some people might say, like, well, why are you having such a hard time with that? And you know, I think if I were in that perspective, something that I've noticed, I don't know if this is just some kind of excuse or something that I come up with in my head, but I think when you're in a job, for example, or you volunteer somewhere, or you're already known for doing what you're doing, and then you transfer that over to YouTube, you have a pre-existing population of people who already know you, and they know you for what you like to do, and they're already following you, and they can kind of help spread the word. Whereas myself, when I started doing this, I was not involved in the mental health community. I do not go to conferences, although that's something I would like to change if I ever find the ability to do that. I'm just, like, not involved in the mental health world, so I have been really kind of going from the ground up and just adding people as friends where I can, and trying to interact as much as I can to get known. But I didn't have a pre-existing community to feed myself and to spread the word, and I really rely on you guys to help do that in any way. So even just, like, watching my videos is, like, the biggest deal. but spreading my videos and sharing them, that's kind of like my lifeline as far as YouTube goes. I have been considering recently doing less videos because I don't like the quality of these. It's starting to not feel fulfilling for me. I really liked doing this 200th video, and I liked the way that it came out. It felt more impactful to me. And I kind of would like to get back to doing that kind of thing, but I can't do that 5 days a week. So that's something I've been considering, and that's because of my mental health and how it's just trying to figure this all out. And again, it all comes down to frustration. I was trying to summarize here, and I got off into all these other different tangents. So you've got the money thing, you have comparison, you have social anxiety, you have possible threats and negative comments about you. So it comes at you from all angles when you do this kind of a thing. The positives, though, because I don't want to leave the positives out, are you do get to meet new people, and you do get to be known for talking about something, and it makes it much easier to meet people eventually, because there's a car coming. Eventually it does get much easier to meet new people because you're kind of known. Like, I'm going to be known as the mental health guy. Like, I would hope by now that if people think of like, oh, the mental health guy, they'll just kind of think of me, and maybe like people will refer friends to me. I kind of see that happening sometimes now already. So that's a positive. You will be able to turn this into a career if you grow large enough, but growing is not easy and it's not automatic. I have been at this for 9 months, and I have been like full force at it. And again, that's going to depend on your topic. Some people may have an easier time growing in other topics, but for this topic, it's very crowded. There's a lot of people speaking. And I don't have a core, I haven't necessarily found that core way to communicate to people who I am and what I'm about really quickly, really clearly, and why I'm differentiated from other people. So that's difficult for me. But you can turn this into, we're trying to stick with the positives here, you can turn this into a positive, and you can have a business out of it if you grow large enough and you're smart about how you do it, and you're not relying on YouTube advertising. Because while YouTube advertising can be nice, once you get much, much larger, it is not enough to live on where I live anyway. And it's not the way to go if you're trying to make a business out of this. And there's always the concern that YouTube could pull the plug on you. YouTube could change the way that they do things. And as we saw with PewDiePie, as I mentioned, he got involved in a controversy, which, if you ask my personal opinion, I don't even think it was really about what we think it was about. But it hurt him and a lot of the people around him financially. So it's a blessing and a curse. I don't know how much of a blessing it is. It would be for me personally, it would feel like a blessing to be able to do this and feel like I have enough money to sustain myself, because I don't. What else is a positive of doing this? Just expressing yourself and getting to know yourself and learning your strengths and your weaknesses through doing this. Like, I know now what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and it gives me the chance to improve on the areas that I'm not so good at, and it gives me the chance to celebrate the things that I am good at, and I do reflect on that. You know, I am happy that I was able to make 200 videos so far, and that makes me feel good. And you know, come later on down the road, I'll know, I can look backwards and I can say I did that, and that makes me happy. So there are positives. I can't think of them right now. I really just kind of need to get home because it's getting late, but let me know what your experience has been. Are you a YouTuber? Or maybe have you been considering doing YouTube? Are there some things that maybe have stopped you from from doing it? Or like what kind of mental health things do you find come into your mind when you think about doing YouTube? If you're new here, please subscribe. I do mental health videos Monday through Friday. We don't know how long that's gonna last now, but right now it's still gonna be Monday through Friday. Not necessarily on YouTube topics, it's mostly mental health. And once you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell that shows up next to it if you want to get notified of all of my videos. And there's a reason why I say this at the end of my videos, and there's a reason why YouTubers say this, because again, if we don't say this, YouTube doesn't get the signals that we're popular enough to show people. And even when you're subscribed, it doesn't it used to be when you were subscribed that it would show you all of your subscriptions on the homepage, and they switched it over, and now there's a subscription tab, and on the homepage you're in competition with everybody on YouTube basically. So it's not easy for me to get seen unless you're subscribed to me and unless you hit that bell. You may not be reminded that I'm here. I, you can go through your day and forget all about me, which is totally fine. But that's what it is. That's why I do it. And that's why I ask you to comment down below. Less so for the YouTube thing, but just because I want us to get to know each other and to talk and get the perspective outside of my own perspective, because my perspective is only one perspective when it comes to mental health. So leave your comments and subscribe, and if you like me enough, go ahead and support me on Patreon. Anything that you can contribute there is appreciated. If you can't contribute, that's totally fine. And I will see you tomorrow with some luck. I have not checked the weather, but I believe it will be okay, so hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.